Ladies and gentlemen, we will soon begin with our session 3 of the 2022 Korea Maritime Week. So please take your seats now and also make sure that your cell phones are turned off or put into silent mode. I would also like to remind you again that we have interpretation for you. English to Korean is channel 1 and channel 2 is Korean into English. So please take your seats and we will get ready for session 3, which will begin at 2 p.m. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all enjoyed your lunch and are ready to delve into some more informative and interesting topics that we have prepared for you. So we will now begin session 3 of the 2022 Korea Maritime Week, which will deal with maritime autonomous surface ships, or in short, MAS. And to start us off, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Jin Kim, Project Head of CAS Project Office of the Korea Research Institute of Ships and Ocean Engineering. And the presentation will be on progress report on CAS project. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause.
네, 소개 감사드립니다.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. This is a government-funded R&D project. We call it CAS. Here, what we pay most attention to under this project is how we are going to certify the autonomous systems. That will be my focus in my presentation. This is the overview of the project. And then I will also talk about our validation process that we think that will be most ideal. And I will briefly talk about validation infrastructure and test procedures. And I will present some scenarios that we have developed. The Korea Autonomous Surface Ship Project is funded by Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries, as well as Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy. The project period is from 2020 to 2025. It's a 6-year project. And for the first phase, we will focus on system development, and in the last 2 years, we will focus on validation. The budget is about 160 billion Korean won, and Korea government will provide 120 billion won, and the rest will be shared by the private sector. This is our technical target. In the ocean-going operation, we will target level 3, and in the coastal area, we will target level 2. And for demonstration, we are going to use 1,800 TEU vessels. About 51 organizations are participating in this project, and CRISO and Korean Register are leading the project, and most of the major shipyards, shipping companies, and IT ventures and manufacturers are also participating in this project. And we also have someone from Lloyd Register, and Lloyd Register is also part of this project. And we are working with Lloyd Register for validation procedures. This slide shows the sub-projects of CAS. We have these 3 core technologies. Under the 3 core technologies, we have 13 sub-projects. One of the 3 pillars is autonomous navigation system. The second pillar is autonomous engine system. And the third pillar is a test infrastructure and validation techniques. Actually, there is one more pillar, which is operational techniques and technical standardizations. For validation, we are going to use a 24-meter long vessel. The systems are being mounted on the vessel this year. And so we are going to validate data communication on 1,800 TEU container ship. And we have a data center in Ulsan. The completion ceremony of the data center will be held next month in Ulsan. Let me share with you 3 research results. One of them is situational awareness system. We call it intelligent situational awareness system. Here we are testing LiDAR, radar, AIS data, and all these data and information are used for situational awareness system. As you can see on the bottom of the page, we have different scenarios to recognize different situations by using buoys and LiDAR or radar. We are testing intelligent navigation system. This is a lake, a real lake in Daejeon. Not to make this presentation boring, I added this video or animation. There are 4 marks. The route, we made sure the route passes by these 4 landmarks, and we are trying to validate whether the vessels can avoid collision with the marks. So you can operate the vessels, actual vessels, navigate around these marks, and in the cyberspace you can make different combinations of routes. So we are trying to test a complicated environment and routes. This is a very small model ships. And we will also do the same test on 24-meter long vessel. And you will hear more information on this by the third presenter, Dr. Chang. We have this engine on a vessel, and we simulated engine errors, like there is a valve failures and loose change. Here we try to find what signals we can get from this simulated error. When the systems are on, ships are on board, we would be able to use this research data to be prepared for system failures, and you will hear more information about this from Mr. Chang later. As I said earlier, we are focusing on intelligent systems, specifically how we are going to validate intelligent systems. How can you make sure the autonomous system is good enough to avoid collision? But we are not sure what level of validation should be conducted to ensure that we are safe. So we need more discussion on it. 2 weeks ago, there was a mass seminar hosted by IMO, and I made the same comment back then. Current vessels are operated by experienced masters and crew, but let's assume that the autonomous vessels have artificially intelligent master and crew. Can you make sure that you can rely on them? So today I want to talk about this topic. So to do validation tests, we are building a shore control center in Ulsan, a coastal city in South Korea. And we are testing, you can operate and see onshore data that will be on board. As I said earlier, we created virtual vessels for tests, and at the same time, as you can see on the bottom right, we built a vessel that is 24 meters long, and we are mounting all these systems we want to validate on this ship. And once the shore control center is completed, more system will be tested. In Crusoe, we have this monitoring system to monitor what will be going on in the shore control center in Ulsan. We will take a look at AIS information and we will monitor all AIS signals. Again, validation is the key. Validation process is one of the most important things here. So we are doing simulation-based tests. At the same time, we are planning a sea trial-based test. That is why we are coming up with ideas for simulation systems, and we are building test bed for sea trial-based tests. Once all the processes and procedures are completed, what evaluation process will be needed, what evaluation process is needed will be discussed. So we are preparing some documents for that as well. So we assume that a ship owner requested a test of autonomous systems on board. The first thing we need to do is to find out what type of ship the ship owner has and where the ship will be operated and under what conditions and up to what categories, what level does the ship owner want his or her ship to be tested. We have two test categories. One is pre-test, the other is main test. We will do the pre-test first to find out what should be corrected before we start doing the main test. Then we will be able to decide the level of test in the main test period, whether it is a situational awareness systems or AI systems or the integration system. We have to find out the purposes first. And we also have to identify the roles and functions of each system and interpret it. We also have to check interface, and if necessary, API should be ready as well in the pre-test period. In the pre-test phase, in main test, we will test data interface again. And here, simulation-based tests will be conducted first. So here you are actually operating a fleet, but actually you can see some virtual marks and buoys and on the display. That's why we are doing a simulation-based test, and we named it simulation-based test. Now, we are in the main test phase. Here, we will use real vessels to test collision avoidance. Then, in the main test phase, we will do a hybrid test as well. We cannot create artificially a dangerous situation or environment, but only for the purpose of the test. So we will create virtual obstacles for the test. So by hybrid, I mean we can create a potentially actual or real environment and virtual environment. We can mix those two. So this is how we are going to test a situational awareness system. This is a scenario. Under this scenario, we have a fixed target. On the left, you can see This vessel goes straight, passes by marks. They are colored, and what we are trying to see here is whether the vessel can recognize these marks. In the other picture, you can see the marks are not lined up straight. They are here and there. So here we are trying to find out whether the vessel can recognize these marks as well, even though they are not in line. Here we are trying to find out whether the vessel is to recognize moving marks. This is the last scenario. We have moving fixed marks and moving objects as well. And we will find out whether this vessel will recognize both marks. This is of a navigation guidance and control system. Here we have to test route, speed, and we will have to find out whether the vessel can avoid collision with vessels around it, and there are sensors as well. What is marked as blue cannot be controlled if we use a real vessel, but in simulation we can control these vessels marked blue or colored blue. So to test these marks that are in our control, this will allow us to test more complicated environments, because this is done virtually. In the interest of our time, I'll be brief here. We will test crossing, overtaking of vessels, and we will also simulate multiple vessels at the same time. And you saw this at the animation. There are 4 fixed points, and this vessel has to pass them by. So we intentionally created these complicated environments surrounding this vessel. Some vessels comply with collision regulations, but others don't. In our algorithm, we added some conditions to see whether a vessel that is not complying with collision regulation can avoid obstacles. This is one of the most complicated tests, and we are using Monte Carlo method here. So we are rating each vessel under these scenarios. Our ultimate goal here is, so we will add more test methodologies, such as goal-based test. So I'd like to have more discussion on what we are going to do when there is an artificially intelligent masters on board. Each digital system has been prepared by different classification societies like Lloyd registers and Korean registers. What we need now is approval. So when all these different digital systems are combined, like a collision avoidance system, engine systems, autonomous engine system, all of different systems will be on board. So here, what we need to discuss is how we are going to validate and evaluate them. Now, IMO came up with 4 levels of autonomy, but we don't think that is clear enough. We need a more specific level, more fragmented level. That means we need more scenarios and more procedures for more effective validation. And this requires a global standardization and COS project. One of the biggest goals of COS project is to make more suggestions on validations and standardization.
Project and also for breaking it down into all the necessary tests. Let's give Mr. Kim another big round of applause. Let's move on to our next presentation, which is by Erik Tvedt, Special Advisor of the Danish Maritime Administration. Unfortunately, Mr. Tvedt could not be here with us in person, but we have a presentation on the screen, a video presentation. So let's give him a big round of applause and take a look.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for hosting me for this prestigious event in Korea. I'm so sorry that I was not able to participate in person for various reasons, but I hope this videoized presentation will still be worthwhile listening to and looking at. My name is Erik Tvedt. I work for the Danish Maritime Authority, but in this case, I do have to draw your attention to the disclaimer. Lots of the things I'm going to talk about is going to be legal issues, and therefore I had to do a legal disclaimer. This is based on the complete new discussions we are having at IMO, and therefore not necessarily the position of the Danish Maritime Authority as it stands today. But time will show. Well, to get started on this, we need to discuss what is MAS. What is what we call a maritime autonomous surface ship? Well, to my point of view, we need to forget the discussion about levels of autonomy. They were inherited from the automotive sector, and reality doesn't really fit. They were very helpful in the exercise we have done looking into the existing regulations. But I do think to go on, we need to recognize that this is first and foremost about automatic navigation and automatic collision avoidance. The rest is what I call business as usual. That's conventional ships with advanced automation, with AI features, that's artificial intelligence added, but still it's a ship. We know how to work with a ship. The big issue, especially in a legal world, comes when there's nobody on the bridge. So therefore, the big discussions we are having is there a human decision maker present? And is that human decision maker able to actually make decisions? And the second question is that decision maker on board or on shore? And that's really the key to the work in the coming years in IMO and other places. To my point of view, we're definitely going to have a human in the loop for many years to come. And then I will take you into just 2 weeks ago, we had a seminar in IMO on MAS, and there were a lot of exciting presentations also from your country, which I think was very well received and which we were very happy to listen to. What I'm going to concentrate on is really, again, the legal aspect, because I'm a flag state, and to a flag state needs to have its legal house in order, so to say. Well, the conclusion were that you could do a MAS under the United Nations Convention on Law of the Sea, but it requires the IMO to establish these generally accepted rules and standards. in order to enable rite of passage. The whole idea is there's no fun in having a nice ship that can do a lot of things if you can only use it in your own waters. And therefore, this is the prime reason why we work on this in IMO. The flag state has a right to do any ships in its flag, put a mass on its register. It can do so. The question here, where may it sail? And the flag state needs to have due diligence to exercise effective jurisdiction and control. That's a very important issue that I'm going to get back to later in the presentation. The coastal state enjoys sovereignty over its waters. That is, you need permission from the coastal state to go into its ports, and you need to be either under IMO regulations or have permission by the coastal state in order to passage sovereign waters, that is the territorial waters of a coastal state. And the coastal state, again, this is about its sovereignty. How you decide whether this is innocent passage or not. In other words, until we have IMO setting a set of regulations, we are going to have this as national issues, and we need coastal states to approve. This is going to be a big task to work out, and I do think we need to have a lot of bilateral and multilateral agreements in order to make this work in the short term. Well, then what about Rolls-Royce? You know, all of this started when Rolls-Royce back in 2015, 2016 launched its fantastic videos. Container ships sailing around the world, bulk carriers, unmanned, going around the world. Well, to my point of view, it's not going to happen. At least not in my lifetime. That's my best guess. What are we then going to see? Well, I think we're going to see mass technology in two very distinct groups of ships. One will be what we call unmanned surface vessels, or they call it drones, survey vessels, tugboats, rescue vessels, smaller vessels, even passenger vessels, different kinds. What would be typical of these ships are they're working in internal waters of a state, and they're going to be powered by battery or fuel cells. On the other side, we're going to have big ships, which I think will employ an electronic lookout functions, perhaps one day a periodically unmanned bridge. They will have remote control of a lot of stuff, which is really expansion of what we're doing today. And they may be powered by conventional fuels, including all the new ones, ammonia, methanol, you name it. I think the big issue is, as long as we have traditional fuel ships with traditional big engines, diesel engines for new fuels, we are going to have a crew on board. And that is really where the big issue is. The problem is not having an unmanned bridge. There are legal problems, there are verification problems, but the real issue is how do we power the ships? And as long as we have today's way of building power plants, we are not going to have unmanned ships. That's my look at it. You may disagree, but at least this input for the debate. Well, there's another issue. Industry today wants to go into operation. And in order to do that, we have to ask some questions. Is it a ship at all? And I think one of the takeaways, again, from the seminar and the discussion is this kind of things is about 3 to 4 meters, may not be a ship. This one may not be a ship either, but just bordering to be a ship. This one is probably a ship, but all of them are unmanned survey drones, which are there today, working in wind turbine projects, offshore projects, and so on. So we need to regulate them. So therefore, the big issue is if it's a ship, where it's going to operate, because that's going to be the big difference between the different kinds of regulation we can employ. And this is one of the examples of what we have. What makes it so complicated in our country, in Denmark? Well, that's because you see the red lines, those are international straits, where we got even special requirements. Here you can go with anything and we can't stop it. So there's a lot of legal issues. And I think that's really one of the big showstoppers at the moment. We are not ready to permit this technology in lots of the waters. We can do a lot of stuff in our own waters where nobody else comes. But going out where we've got international traffic and need to observe the conventions, that is difficult. Well, we have tried to find a way of handling this, at least in our own countries. It's all come down to we need to have a ship owner. We have decided that any land component of the mast, we call the remote bridge, will be treated as part of the ship. And we have decided that communication between the ship and the remote bridge is part of the ship. This is really a tricky part, and I think there's again be a lot of debate. How are we going to do that in reality? We don't know yet, but this is our working premises. We have made a draft procedure, and the whole idea is that we only work on the part of it which is non-standard. 95%, 98% of a ship's technology may be business as usual and could be approved, verified, certified as any other traditional ship. And then we focus on the extra stuff and try to use, well, very few of the projects are SOLAS projects, but we try to use the exemption or equivalence principles which are based in SOLAS Chapter 1, Regulation 4 and 5, and we have the famous Circular 1455 on how we do risk analysis and approval up against these SOLAS regulations. So this also gives us some very important premises. Number one, for the time being, due to UNCLOS, UN Convention of Law of the Sea, we have to insist for Danish flag, the remote bridge, the remote control center is in Denmark. Otherwise, we cannot have jurisdiction. If it's shore-based in Denmark, you can put it on a ship. If it's shore-based, shore rules will apply to the persons, to health and safety, fire safety, so working hours, because it's not going to be a ship in that regard. It's going to be on shore. Only the maritime operation itself will be a maritime thing to regulate. This is also going to make it difficult, but it's the only way we can do it when we have this organization on shore. And then we have decided the way we are going to control this is by having one common ISM system that covers the ship, the remote bridge, and the ship owner's organization that handles the remote bridge in one common ISM with procedures, safety, command, control, communications. Hey, what do you do if communications breaks down? How do we maintain security also on the shore side, and so on and so forth. So to us, the ISM system is the tool we're going to use in order to regulate a mass. And then people ask, what about cyber risk management? Well, it's called cyber risk management because in all risk. And, you know, we discussed it a lot in IMO. We put it in ISM. So that refers back to what I said before. This is an IM issues. And we do have to recognize that the biggest problem today with cyber risk is not the hackers. It's just plain bad software. And I don't have to mention, for instance, the Boeing 737 MAX problems to emphasize how important software quality is. The next problem, that's wrong operation of digital systems. That has a lot to do with education, training, and the way you build the systems, and the way you think the operations of the systems. Then we have the cyber criminals, and then what is very obvious, we do have people who are paid to destroy our systems because they don't like us. That's how it is. This is also something we have to take into consideration. So what to do about it? Well, we have to do as for any other complex real-time system. The fact that this is on a ship is no different. It could be a train, a nuclear power plant, process industry. We have to do the same. And we have to learn from what they have done. We need to build quality software and build in security from the beginning. Our big difference is we need a very long wireless communication. Everybody else can do things hardwired. We can't. Well, actually, modern trains are radio controlled. And therefore, one of my favorites is really to look at what happens in the train sector, the rail sector. I think they've got a lot of things we need to copy in the maritime sector. But we need to ensure we have resilient communication, and we need to have procedures on what we're going to do when communications breaks down, because communication is going to break down. Manning, well, this is really a contagious issue. Lots of discussions. We think for the time being we're looking to STCW, but a lot of questions arises. For instance, if you are a ship operator sitting in a remote control center, do you need to be a qualified smoke diver? Can you be in a wheelchair? You can operate the ship from your computer screen from a wheelchair, no problem, but you can't do it on a ship. So there's a lot of second level, I would call it, discussions when we really dig into this area. But this is so much open. It's so much something we're just starting to scratch the scratch the surface. And then, what is my conclusions to this talk? Well, mass is going to be a national issue. It's going to be national regulated for many years to come. We need to enable short sea shipping or ultra short sea shipping and working things, what I call, which are the drones and so on. They are anyway outside of the IMO remit, because IMO is international trade and ships above a certain size. And most of this is really within a country's territorial sea, even in a territorial sea, and they are smaller than what is in the SOLAS regulations. There will eventually be a mass code, but my personal view is that mass code, and therefore we can also have a non-mandatory mass code to start with. It will be a model regulation that we can use in each of our countries, and we can use for basis for regional regulations. We also have to conclude that the maritime industry needs to have a very close look at other sectors in order to learn how do other sectors go about doing automatic unmanned systems. We have 2,000 years of history in the shipping sector, and some of this just don't work in a highly communicative remote control environment. And we need to be very much sure of how we interact between humans and the system. Something we are, I would say, not being that good at this present time. And the ship owners will need to look at the business cases. The infrastructure necessary to operate MAS is going to be expensive. It's not going to be simple. You can just take off some crew. No, you may take off the crew, but you may need double up people on shore. So the business case is an important issue. And again, I mentioned the rail sector. The rail, if those of you who have been to London may have experienced London Dockland light rails. That has been unmanned for 25 years. It can be done. And they've got extremely good safety statistics. So I think that's a place to go and look. Thank you very much for listening to me. And I hope this has been worthwhile. Thank you very much.
And that was Mr. Tved's presentation on mass agreement development status. And although he cannot hear us, let's give him a loud round of applause. All right, and now back here in Busan, I would like to introduce our next speaker, who is Hwa-Seop Chang, the General Manager of Korean Register, who's going to talk about autonomous ship engine system CBM technology development. Let's welcome him with a warm hand.
네, 방금 소개받은 한국 성급
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hwa-Seop Chang from Korea Register. I would like to present the current status and reasons for development of CBM, condition-based maintenance technology. First of all, let's think about the ultimate goal of CBM technology. Recently, due to COVID-19, remote survey has been partially adopted. However, many ships are conducting planned maintenance activities. But in order to realize the concept of autonomous ship, this CBM is essential. To achieve this, we need to achieve convergence with IoT sensor and create big database and conduct digital survey. Now we are at the stage of remote survey. It means that we have a long way to go. But CBM technology is critical for the autonomous vessels. If you look at the photo here, it shows that sensors should be connected to each other in order to realize the concept of autonomous ship. Data from these IoT sensors will be implemented through this monitor system. As you see here on the slide, we can collect and create big data. Just like Jarvis in the movie Iron Man, AI can make diagnosis on any signals of failure and help more efficient maintenance. And the crew can check the status of the ship and the status of signals of failures and conduct maintenance immediately. Let's have a look at the definition of CBM. As you see on the left, many ships are conducting planned maintenance activities. In other words, running time-based maintenance. they don't know when their equipment will fail. So it's very important to conduct proactive maintenance. And ship owners want to use the equipment until the equipment totally breaks down. To do that, they have to make predictive management of the systems. So the key is predictive management. They have to move from planned management to predictive management. This applies not only to shipping, but also to other industries like airplane, automobiles, and so on. Definition of CBM. CBM uses the existing data to predict the signs of failure. Our research team has defined the categories of CBM into 9 categories. For example, data acquisition, data collection, data transmission, communication, and in the end, it leads to maintenance decision support. This is AI-based CBM software. There are strengths and weaknesses of CBM. Weaknesses of CBM includes the fact that in order to acquire new data, we need additional sensors. In other words, you have to spend additional money. But as I explained in the previous slide, we have to implement predictive maintenance. That's why you need to adopt CBM system. Many scientists say garbage in, garbage out. If you put garbage data into the model, you will get garbage outcome. So the key issue here is to ensure the quality of data. The higher the quality of data, the higher the reliability of the CBM system. But still, it's difficult to acquire sufficient amount of data now. Getting data from ships itself is quite a challenge. In the past, we couldn't even imagine collecting data from ships. And when the ship experienced failure, and if the failure should be immediately fixed, then that incurs a lot of costs and efforts. And in many cases, a certain type of failure especially take place more often than other type of failure. So the key issue is that you need to acquire good quality data from the ship. And if you want to provide AI-based service, the first question we should ask is, how much good quality data do you have? As such, the data quality is very important. So the research team at Korea Register understood the importance of data, and we thought about how we could acquire good quality data for training the AI machine. So we decided that we should produce data if we cannot secure sufficient amount of data from ships. So we use the actual engine, the power generation system, to create FMA, failure mode analysis. As you see on the slide, we figured out when a certain type of failure takes place, what kinds of symptoms or signals appear. And we looked at 10 types of failure from main engine and 6 types of failure from other type of engines. So we artificially generated data. I'd like to show you a video clip. we have a TCC center in Kunsan. At the TCC center, actual main engine and generator engine for ships are prepared like this. So we tested the main propulsion engine and used our failure scenario. In this way, we artificially generated failure data from this engine. We cooperated with MAN, the manufacturer of this engine, and we artificially caused failure in the system. This ring is an example. We artificially broke down this ring and saw what happened. In this way, we generated the failure data. So we produced such data and we were able to generate a huge amount of data. So we have to apply pre-processing of data and use AI model. AI model refers to machine learning and deep learning. We tried both machine learning and deep learning. As you see here, we used machine learning model and used SBM lab to predict failure. As you see here, it has very high confidence level because the testing environment was almost ideal. Each ship has different characteristics of engines, and there are different values of characteristics depending on which route the vessel navigates through. And we used deep learning. And after doing this simulation, we realized that it's not a matter of model, but what's more important is to secure consistent data and consider the frequency of the data. And we need to figure out what we're going to do with the missing data. And we conducted extensive research in this area. And this is not just an academic system, but we want the system to be applied to the actual actual ship. So we created back-end and front-end system, considering that this could be used in the actual ship. And depending on the patterns of data, autonomous learning and autonomous tuning are possible. And we created a separate dashboard in the prototype. On the left side, you are seeing the AI-based CBM software's dashboard. On the right side, this dashboard exists on board. This dashboard also exists in the shore system because personnel in the shore system should look at this and manage the data system. We connected the data pipeline so that data can be continuously collected and could be used for the training of AI model. And based on the system, we wanted to see if we can develop a product based on the system and apply this to the actual ships. And in November this year, the product will be fully installed on the ships. I see many students from Korea Maritime and Oceans University. In one of the ships owned by the Korea Maritime and Oceans University, our CBM system will be installed. We also have a plan to demonstrate our technology in the actual real ship. And I would like to share a case example where we provided a service for our customers. On the left, That's supervised learning. It means that you know the answer. For example, you know what type of failure happened when. Based on this information, you look at the data and you need to be able to predict when such a failure will take place. This is supervised learning. We applied about 11 months of data and we saw how this model or algorithm can predict accident. On the right side, that is unsupervised learning. The system looks at the data alone, and we wanted to see if in the second case, the system can predict accident. In the second case on the right side, we used low quality data. For example, one set of data per every 36 seconds, for example. Through machine learning, the system actually recognized which exhaustion system had problems. In conclusion, the CBM technology itself should be divided into different levels. Simple condition monitoring cannot be expressed as CBM technology. For a technology to be named CBA, the level 1 will be to be able to identify that there is a failure. The level 2 is a more advanced function than that. And in the case of level 4 CBM system, automatic connection between AMS and PMI would be possible. Not only algorithm, but hardware and software configuration are important. And we have to accurately understand the data that comes from the ships. This will be all for my presentation.
Our definition of a CBM or condition-based maintenance technology and also highlighting its necessity. Let's give Mr. Tang another big round of applause. And next, we have Luis Benito, Innovation and Co-Creation Director of Lloyd's Register, and he's going to speak about evolution of survey and inspection of autonomous and AI-enabled systems in maritime. Let's welcome him with a big hand.
Thank you very much. Thank you, 감사합니다. It's very good for me to be here in Busan again, addressing all of you on this very critical subject, I believe, to move maritime industry forward. So I will give you about 20 minutes or less presentation on our view on how, thanks to the application of digital technologies and autonomous systems, we can also change the way we will do our survey, inspection, and testing of ship systems. And basically, the view, the answer to what will be the future is what you see now on this slide. Basically, the direction is that in the old days, maybe 3 years ago, everything we did on survey, inspection, testing was 100% based on physical presence, people going on board ships and looking at things, testing things, or on shipyards, commissioning stage. And actually, we are going to move, thanks to autonomous technologies, into a radical different future, which is what you can read. Basically, a fully remote and data-based testing, inspection, and survey of systems on autonomous ships. And this will be thanks to the application of artificial intelligence-enabled technologies on ships, like the ones that we have seen under development now, and we will see more in more presentations to come. So this is the conclusion for today's presentation. If you choose to believe it, this is the end of my presentation. But anyway, I will give you a little bit of a short case study that proves that actually this could be possible, and we could also get regulators to accept this way of working. So the case study is something that we have just finished with the customer, with Furuno. Actually, it's in the public domain. It was the assurance of a digital twin technology to replace the need to perform the VDR, the Voyage Data Recorder testing, replace the need to do it on the ship, and instead of on the ship, be able to do it remotely, as well as perform monitoring of performance remotely. So basically, this case is about the VDR. I think if you are not familiar, this illustrates basically that the VDR is a very small equipment. It might be simple, it's like the black box of a ship, as you may know, but actually is interconnected with a multitude of systems on the ship, many of them critical for navigation and communications on the ship. So it is a complex ecosystem that actually the VDR deals with within the ship. This is actually a picture from Furuno of the actual technology that is placed on board to create, that is actually digital twinning the VDR and replicating its function both on the ship but also at the shore center that Furuno will have so far probably in Tokyo for the whole of the fleet operating worldwide. And the three main aspects of why this is happening, why companies spend time and effort and money in going this route, basically is stated on these three lines here underneath in green. Basically, by moving into autonomous systems and digital twin technology, the companies can get compliance in an easier and a more simple way and also cost-effective. Also, by applying these technologies, they can improve the reliability and availability of equipment by knowing more about the failures ahead of a failure time, and they can predict and take action. And therefore, the overall cost, the life cycle cost of running the equipment also should be less than today. So there's a few reasons why it's interesting to move into this kind of technologies. Yeah, on the case of the of the testing of the VDR, the so-called the APT, the Annual Performance Test, which is a regulatory requirement. This testing is about performing certain actions. The actions are listed on the slide, on left and right. And what we have done now with digital twin technology is we have made, on the left-hand side, we have made certain actions to be performed by the digital twin, not by the person on board, not by the technician of the equipment, just by the digital twin created by the technician. So detection of faults, integrity of the VDR interfaces with other navigation equipment, ability to receive data from connected sensors, and monitoring power availability. These functions are automatically monitored and checked by the digital twin. Then there's a set of actions on the other side which are performed still with the intervention of a human, but this human now is using the technology, so actually, although these items are performed, not all of them needs the human present on the ship, but still there's a lot of human intervention as we speak today, identification of nameplates, battery expiry dates, okay, certain things that are done on board as of today without changing the regulatory regime as we speak. In the creation of a digital twin, we have worked with the customer in moving into three phases, more or less as described in the slide. Basically, first of all, we have done what we call system concept development, some activity to understand what the digital twin will be for, use case, who is involved in the digital twin outcome, and then a bit of a setup to then do the engineering phase, which is looking at the system benefits, the human system task analysis, accident failure analysis for the equipment, requirements engineering, simulations for modeling hardware engineering and simulations. And then we look at the software engineering, which takes care of the software architecture, requirements, and the software implementation. These activities are done as a testing of the technology. Then what we do is understanding how the technology functions, actually how the technology delivers the output. And for this particular technology, for this particular equipment, we came up with functional requirements that could be done by the digital twin, and then functional requirements that are not yet done by the twin. For the ones which are done by the twin, which was a total of 88 functional requirements to be checked, we just undertook 4 types of testing, as you see listed here below: the analysis review, the software in the loop testing, the hardware in the loop, and then some additional demonstrations. The detail of what each one of these, a little bit detail of what each one of these entails is on this slide. So basically, quickly, the analysis review was about looking at the anomaly detection review for the 88 functional requirements identified with the customer. These 88 were identified after we studied how many requirements we need to satisfy two things: that the technology will function, will deliver the performance required by the user, the ship owner, and that the technology will be able to be proven as compliant with regulations. So within this 88, we could do both activities. Then description of fault specificity review for 67 of functional requirements, fault detection and isolation review for the 88 functional requirements. Then we move into the software in the loop activity, which was about performing 3 types of testing. Testing on case, we call it ABC, simulation category ABC, and I'll give you a bit of detail of that a bit later. Then hardware in the loop, that we decided that we needed to do basically 3 things: the power failure and backup test for 4 of the functional requirements, disconnection of the equipment test, and then the data interruption simulation test for 13 cases, which we concluded those would be enough to demonstrate the overall functioning of the digital twin. The demonstrations for functional requirements category 2 are the ones that don't deal with the digital twin technology, that deal with the human, checking the human, that the human actions will be also performed properly. So what we need to check, okay, what can go wrong when a human is interfering, some crew errors or of commissioning and omissions, injection of poor quality photographs, and evaluation of data consistency analyzer, that are things that could maybe get wrong sometimes due to human error. So after we did all that, then we started to employ technology that we have commissioned and actually working in partnership with the Alan Turing Institute in the UK. This institute, I think it was created like 10 years ago, and it's a body in the UK that is working for the government on anything related to big data. So they are also writing standards of big data, and they have, as part of their scope, they are creating technology to test artificial intelligence-enabled technology. So this technology is what we use on this case to then create bespoke Python language script of the test cases. We will then submit these test cases into the digital twin of a VDR, and we will prove if the digital twin actually recognizes the test cases, and also if the digital twin finds induced errors, induced failures that we actually ingest on test case C by the bespoke Python script. So actually we test if the twin understand the cases, and also if the twin detect the failures that we decide to input into the technology. Obviously, after a few runs and after some not so long time, because the whole testing and evaluation took less than 2 months, actually, the twin performed to satisfaction of everybody. The test cases A and B were a bit intense, like we looked at a total of 249 failure modes, I think, in two ways, sequentially simulated and also simultaneously simulated. After this, also through this technology, we could also understand not only if the twin detects the failures and also can tell us that is the right category and actually can specify what it is and is right. Also the time that it took the twin to detect the failure. And for this particular technology, for the total of 249 failures introduced at once, the twin took 4 minutes to report the status and what was going on with the system, both into the onboard center, onboard dashboard, and the one ashore in Tokyo. And for the test case B, it took 90 seconds. So this was considered acceptable, and is one of the way this technology functions up to now, and it was considered acceptable as long as everybody knows that they have to wait 4 minutes to get the results. We did hardware in the loop, as I said before, on 13 functional requirements, and finally, what all this allowed us was to apply the framework we have written in Los Register to do verification and validation of artificial intelligence-enabled systems and technology for autonomous ships and autonomous systems. Without this kind of testing, we wouldn't be able to prove to the administration that we have enough evidence to actually allow the digital twin to replace humans. With this, with the technology being created by the maker and the testing created by our partner and the framework of assurance that we have written, by the combination of all this, we can deliver that assurance to the administration, and we can change the way we do surveys in the future. The customer gets these 3 major benefits. In this particular technology, the technology will do real-time monitoring, it will do remote testing, and it will improve the reliability and availability of this particular set of equipment. And finally, this is a little bit of the evolution then of what the survey means before this technology is on ships and after. So basically, starting from the left-hand side, if we moved a year ago, let's say 2021, before this technology was finally approved, the final approval was granted a month ago. So last year, we are operating in a standard traditional way, 100% human intervention, physical intervention of the ship. And actually the idea is that we are going to move into 100% remote, okay? So that was the plan. We move forward, and now we have this approval in place and this technology, so now we can say that the intervention, the survey, testing, and inspection is 100% remote with this technology at this level of approval. The 100% remote is about, I call it a hybrid. It's partly based on data from the digital twin, that it is direct data we can take, and then based on some remote inspection that still needs to be done and needs a human to make a decision, as I show you on one of the first slides, because the regulatory regime hasn't changed yet. So we are working with the Marshall Islands administration on this project since the beginning, because they were keen that if we could build evidence that the twin delivers the result we can trust and they could trust, we could move into what you see now on the right-hand side of the slide. We could move into a full database and fully remote, without human intervention type of survey and inspection and testing. And this is the end goal. To achieve this goal, we just need to finalize the report into the flag administration and get the final approval, which is what we're doing right now. The technology is already ready for it. So in that scenario is when we are moving into this new hybrid of fully remote, auto compliance of certain items just by the digital twin. The digital twin delivers the compliance automatically. We don't need to check. We just need to make sure that the twin did the job. And then the rest of it is data-based compliance, which is also doesn't need to involve human decisions necessarily, and it could be done remotely and monitored by a human. So it's a bit of a new hybrid, which is allowed by digital technologies that make systems autonomous. This philosophy and this type of making systems autonomous with this technology is what we are also looking at in application for autonomous navigation ships. It's the same. The case study is not so advanced. I brought you this one because this is all finished. So this is the proof that actually we can make this happen for autonomous navigation ships, and we are working actually with also Crusoe and other customers globally to make this happen. Apply basically the framework of assurance and reach this vision, hopefully, when the first autonomous ships hit the water. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, Samira.
Thank you very much. You still have a few minutes you could have used. That was why I was surprised. Thank you very much for that presentation. Let's give him another big round of applause to Mr. Benito. Thank you for all of the examples on autonomous and AI-enabled systems in maritime. Thank you very much. And now let me introduce our next speaker, who is Jae-woo Kim, manager of Samsung Heavy Industries, and he's going to talk about autonomous navigation technology for coastal navigation. Let's welcome him with a warm round of applause.
네, 반갑습니다.
Nice to meet you all. I am from Shipping and Offshore Research Center of Samsung Heavy Industry. My name is Sang-yong Kim. I'm going to talk about autonomous ship technology in the coastal area. I will share with you what kind of autonomous navigation technology has been developed by our company and how it is applied to the vessels operating in coastal area. When we develop the autonomous navigation system, we have our own philosophy, easy and safety. This is our philosophy. Our goal is to make safer vessel and also easier vessel so that even beginner level crews can easily operate and manage the autonomous ship. Today, the theme is autonomous ship, but I would like to talk about autonomous navigation. For autonomous navigation, we're developing 7 core technologies like CBM, or environment regulation related energy management, cybersecurity, and cargo handling. For now, I'm going to explain about autonomous navigation technology. The brand name of our autonomous navigation system is SAS. It has 3 objectives. First, it should detect objects, avoid collision, and enable remote navigation. To implement these 3 features, we created the GIS system. As you see on the right side, we have Actis screen. On the top right, we created surround view feature. Below, we have coning feature and radar overlay feature. And we should remotely check if the vessel is navigating properly. So we have radar and camera fusion system as well. This system is installed on the bridge in these shapes. Right next to autopilot, it can be established in this way with console. And depending on the system or configuration of the vessels, our system can be located and installed on the ship in different locations. Our journey of autonomous navigation development. In 2019, we created a model ship, and in 2020, we tested our system on 38-meter long tugboat. And last year, we tested our technology on a 133-meter long training ship. Let's have a look at the video clip. The video shows how we tested the model ship. our product is going to be applied to commercial vessels. I want to play the video. My apology. So in the 3.3 meter model ship, we installed radar and IMU and GPS, and past planning was done through IUS and web-based GIS system. We conducted colleg test. So we created this model ship and we tried to figure out how we could reduce blind spot. We remotely control this model ship to see the possibility of autonomous navigation. In this way, we checked the level of our technology and decided to apply the technology to mid to large sized ships. Our company has 38-meter long tugboat. We installed this autonomous navigation system on this tugboat. We installed camera, X-band radar, and 5G model. On the bridge, we enabled radar interface, applied GPS information, and INS autopilot, which was connected to our SAS system. And we remotely controlled this vessel from shore. We wanted to drive the vessel about 100 certain kilometers and change the mode into autonomous navigation mode. This is the actual ship we used for demonstration. As you see here on the bridge, there's no one. It is avoiding the obstacle in front of the vessel. You see the radar and sensor system installed on top of the vessel. During demonstration, we conducted various tests based on colleg. And from Daejeon, from inland area, we remotely control this vessel. And by using ACTIS, we check the location and coordinates of the vessel. And we also tested how this detects obstacles and avoids these obstacles. We wanted to see if our system can be converged with the existing systems on the vessel. We conducted colleg test, but at that time, we didn't know whether the system will meet the performance standard. So we prepared and conducted another test, which was done on the training ship owned by Korea Maritime University. On the top of the deck, we installed 3 surround view camera, and test was done in the seas around Kagodo Island. So there is a specific sea zone that is proper for such demonstration. So we put our training ship and tugboat on the sea here, and we confirmed that these two ships avoided each other when they were heading on to each other. And we also checked that these two vessels avoided collision. This is based on colleg model, and we have been collecting data through these vessels.
As you can see on the top right and bottom right, there are sensors in the navigation system, and static information is needed here. And it allows users to control it, because users want to decide whether it will avoid the dangerous objects in front of him. When all data is input, the first thing to do is object processing, and local path and global path will be displayed. You can either control BMS or autopilot. So now let's compare the ocean and the coast. In the ocean, we won't need any complicated technologies, but so I'm going to focus on the coast. This is LNG fuel ship. If you look at the right, this is the autopilot mode, and rudder angle is not going above ±5. You can see the numbers. The vessel spent like 964 hours without meeting obstacles. Even if there is an obstacle in front, the system will alert the vessel to avoid the obstacles in advance. And we defined 5 functions, and those functions can be available. So we made a comparison with the car industry. There is an internship distance control that will be needed, and course skipping is needed on board. Let's say there is a sudden emergence of obstacle. This requires automatic emergency braking. This is not an easy technology for large and medium-sized ships, and automatic berthing will be needed. The car industry has an equivalent technology which is called parking assist. And from one pilot station to another pilot station, the last technology will be needed, and there will be many obstacles. The biggest obstacles ships have to avoid at coast include bridge, coral reefs, and floating ice. So how to identify these obstacles? We need to think about it. We used to use a radar and radar, but that's not enough. So we wanted to develop camera-based detection system so that the vessel can decide which route it should not take. And all these technologies have been converged and combined. At the bottom, you can see a mission we are trying to do. That will be the identification of a bridge. In coast, sometimes the vessels encounter a bridge, and the vessel have to decide and determine whether it can pass under the bridge. So you have to make a decision whether it can pass under the bridge, and this requires combination of different sensors. So for that, we are using cameras available. The cameras are vision cameras. It offers a 360-degree view. These cameras are already commercially available, and these cameras offer combination of visions. So let me show you how these cameras work. We are using 4 different cameras, providing this 360-degree view. It offers very clear view. These cameras are already on about 30 ships, and 100 additional ships are contracted to have these cameras on board. These cameras will have vessels to avoid obstacles like bridges. If you look at the right-hand side, you can see an obstacle. This is represented in 2D. This vessel can pass under the bridge, but the system decides that the vessel cannot pass under the bridge. So here we are trying to find a solution by using AI technology, specifically segmentation. Then, if segmentation is possible, the vessel can recognize the vessel and determine how high the bridge is and whether it can pass under the bridge. Can you see the gray area? In 2D areas and in 3D area, this was blocked, but if you use sensors, the vessel can pass by the area. So the key here is how fast we can calculate this by using how many frames. Okay, let me play a video that shows a segmentation. This is a bridge. The bridge is in the distance. And this vessel can do segmentation to calculate the height of the bridge and to determine whether it can pass under the bridge. So all the sensors were combined to allow the vessel to do that. But it can have a certain level of accuracy. If we input different bridges, the level of accuracy goes down. So that's one area we need to work on. Here we are using GPS. Let's say we are a vessel passing through a tunnel. Here, SLAM is required that will pinpoint the exact location of the ship. A small vessel can use SLAM, not quite yet for large vessels, and this is part of our trials. So every trial or every system, every trial we are trying to do will focus on not only the ocean but the coast. This shows our plan, the next steps, and as well as our history. In 2019, we built an autonomous ship, and this year we are going to test. In the past, we did the world's first autonomous system test, and this year we will go farther than that. This year we are going to test what level of system verifications we can do. We simulated 40 different systems, and the results were satisfactory. Once we need a type approval and approval from flag states to make these systems commercially available. So we are getting ready for approval of flag states. Once we have approval, these systems will be on ships, and by the end of this year, LNG fuel ships and carriers and super large container ships will have our systems on board. So for costs, we have a long way to go. Specifically, we need to achieve 5 goals, as you can see on the slide. We need an optimal tracking system, and we also need ultra-high resolution image processing. Obstacle identification is another technology we need to advance. Let's say a vessel is in a poor environment, and we also need to come up with a mathematical modeling to let a vessel to understand and identify what ship modeling we will need. Let's say it's a foggy. Then crew and master has to make a routing decision, and combination of algorithm will help the master to make the decision. So completion of autonomous system, autonomous navigation doesn't mean one size fits all. So at least we have to make sure the vessel can collect necessary data, and the data can be interpreted accordingly. So accurate prediction is required, and we have to set the exact requirements regarding speed and steering. So as an equipment manufacturer, we need to have a clear definition of those conditions. But safety is our top priority, so we always keep that in mind. They will make our system economically feasible as well. That concludes my presentation.
The visuals especially helped a lot in understanding the tests. Let's hope for a safe and easy coastal navigation and give Mr. Kim another big round of applause. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, who is Anne-Margrethe Reist, Director of Kongsberg, and she's going to have a presentation on technology trends and prospects for autonomous ships. Let's welcome her with a warm round of applause.
Dear distinguished guests and everyone here, it's a true honor to be here in Busan together with you, collaborating on a sustainable future for shipping, as we heard a lot about this morning as well and yesterday. I am Anne-Margrethe Reist, Director of Next Generation Shipping in Korea Maritime, and I develop solutions for unmanned and autonomous operations. I come from a small nation, Norway. You might wonder why we are here, or why I am here. But if we count the Norwegian coastline with all its fjords and all its islands, we actually have the second longest coastline in the world, over 100,000 kilometers. And to give you a reference, that's actually 2.5 times around the equator. So it's quite long. So I think it's safe to say that we live by, for, and off the ocean. And like Korea, we have high ambition. We have a high level of competence within maritime and a drive to change the maritime industry for the better. For us, being small means that we need to partner up. And like this week, it's a prime example of just that. For my presentation today, there is one key question I would like to address. Why are we here today talking about autonomous ships? Well, look at the global trends. All of these are hitting the maritime industry all at once. To quote yesterday's words by Vice Minister Mr. Song, we are in a 2D era: data, digitalization, and decarbonization. And the changed normality that we are now adapting to is only fueling the development pace. Digital awareness is integrated into daily operation, asset management, and it enables us to connect systems together. This is forming the basis for remote monitoring, supervision, intervention, and autonomous operations. And we know that sustainability has become a matter of course, even more environmentally focused than ever before, and is also requesting partnerships. Some of the drivers are environmental compliance, cost reduction, risk reduction and safety, operational efficiency, of course, logistics and port handling, as we heard about yesterday, and IMO regulations, just to give you a few examples. To derive value from these drivers and to fulfill a need, we create engineered systems, like the remote and autonomous operations. And let us take a look at some of the fundamentals, at least seen from our perspective, that are essential for remote and autonomous operations. So let us start with number one. As you can see here on the screen, a remote and autonomous system is a strategic, enterprise-level game changer. That means that the capabilities we provide through our RNA systems are, to our customers, strategic and business critical. These capabilities exist at the core of our customers' business, just like towage, subsea serving, ferrying, and so forth. Secondly, an RNA system is a complex system of systems operating in different market segments. Developing one complex system can be a technical challenge. I think we can all agree on that. But developing a system of systems compounded by variation in different market segments is another level of technical challenge. To allow for autonomous operations, we must consider the vessel's capabilities, the bidirectional connectivity, and the remote operation center, all as part of the system of interest, and that also goes towards the regulatory approval. And thirdly, like in other industries, we are moving away from prescriptive rules. In the remote and autonomous domain, we see that technology is being in front of regulations. I was looking at some words yesterday and I was thinking it's a little bit like a chicken and egg iterative slow tango, because one cannot exist without the other. So this needs to happen in an iterative process. But possible challenges from future standardization and safety definitions may force alterations or adaptations in the future. And as everyone working with development knows, if you change something early in the concept phase, that is fine. Changing something in the delivery or in the operational phase is very costly. So that is a risk that we are facing and need to manage. And with these three findings, the fundamental findings in our minds, let us move on to the roadmap perspective. And again, this is seen through our eyes, and I will describe a little bit what you see on the slide right here. We are in a learning phase at the moment. The transitions we have identified forwards go through assisted capabilities to automated to orchestrated. Even though we are learning now, that will continue for a long time. We are using the first projects, pilots and demonstrators to mature our knowledge, understanding and technology, and this is essential in order to scale. We cannot focus on the technology alone. There are other aspects that need to mature as well. It's back again. Thank you so much. As I said, we cannot focus on the technology alone. There are other aspects that need to mature as well, like regulations, like understanding how to best deliver customer value by solving the pain points and really understanding their operations. And above the timeline you see here, you see the full-scale solution, meaning the vessel connectivity and the remote operation center per vessel segment. This is what we believe in. And below the timeline, we see a roadmap for introducing capabilities into traditional manned shipping. To the right, you see a graph identifying market size for various ship types and capabilities measured against how mature the market is to adopt the technology and how ready the required technology actually is. And this is, as I said, seen through the eyes of us as an industry manufacturer. Unlike others here, when I talk about autonomous ships, I mean unmanned vessels. Erik Tvedt said that there are many levels of autonomy, and I think that's really true. And not one definition covers all that we discuss. So I will continue discussing unmanned operation, meaning removing the crew altogether from the vessel and putting them on a remote operation center. That center could be on another vessel, or it could be located on land. But to make this happen, we know that there is a lot of development ongoing related to, for example, object detection. We just saw some really good examples from Samsung on that. We are also working on that, developing object detection, classification, and collision avoidance, with the end goal of enabling an operator to safely operate one or more vessels from a remote operation center. This work requires massive amounts of data and good quality data to train the neural networks, apply machine learning to the algorithms, verify and double-check against reality. Another key factor is the use of simulators to test out behavior and try out scenarios too dangerous for real-life testing, and the integration of systems, which was also described by Mr. Jane Kim earlier. We are aiming at replacing and/or aiding the navigator's eyes, fusing traditional navigational sensors with the latest in camera technology. That gives us a clear imagery across poor weather and low light scenarios. It gets us obstacle detection and tracking, route projection, distance to key, and open water detection through fusion of radar, camera, and AIS. And that's all in order to create one coherent understanding of the situational surroundings, the vessel surroundings for that operator. It's a scalable installation integrated into wheel-marked equipment. And our primary focus has been to identify and classify objects relevant for the operator of the vessel, but of course the situational awareness must also consider sound and signals. But for now, let's stick to the Outlook domain. As a part of a government-funded research and innovation project called Pilot-E, we started collaborating with the road ferry operator Busterfusen back in 2018. Their key motivation is fuel efficiency, safety and consistency in their ferry service to the customers. Together, we have developed and extensively tested automatic docking and automatic crossing. Now, some of you are thinking that is not autonomy. Well, you are right, but these are essential building blocks to enable autonomous capabilities. So it's a journey, and we are building up experience and confidence in the system with the operator and also with the flag state. And that brings us to another key building block, also related to the vessel side. Based on received targets detected by the situational awareness system, the autonomous navigation system calculates the risk of collision and plans an action. The Colreg-compliant maneuvering, well, as far as possible with today's rules, will ensure that the autonomous vessels acts in a predictable manner when meeting manned vessels. In fully autonomous mode, the collision avoidance will be executed automatically. In remote control and manual mode, the operator will be warned of any potential collisions and presented with a suggested avoidance maneuver. We have tested MEC&WIP collision avoidance algorithms as a proof of concept. They've been developed by MIT. It's based on behavior-based control, and it's open source, so it's good for testing out. But our experiences so far lets us know that it works good as a reactive collision avoidance module. It has rapid development possibilities, being an open source and everything, but it lacks dynamics needs for larger vessels. And it's based on distance for activation rather than time, where it's something that we are looking towards. Moving away from only looking at the vessel, we are moving towards the second pillar, the bidirectional connectivity. And that is another fascinating topic. It's a really big topic, and I think we're just barely scratching the surface of that one. Because if I ask you whether you consider connectivity to be safety critical or not, I do not expect an immediate and clear answer. One thing we do know for sure is that the related cost is dependent on geographical location, coverage, and how much data you need to send, and how quickly. This is an ideal arena for partnering up, as we in Kongsberg are not about to compete with teleproviders or own land-based infrastructure. The second certainty is that we need to consider the cost from a life cycle perspective, understanding what the cost is during our customers' operations and how that is countered by the perceived value. All in all, the connectivity solution provides a service, and it is an enabler for connecting the onboard systems with a remote operator in the remote operation center. And I must say that we are really proud to say that we've successfully completed the first delivery and customer acceptance test of our remote operation center solution to Masterly in Norway in June this year. And this ROC will cater to the needs of the Yara Birkeland as well as to auto barges for ASCO. And I will come back to the project details shortly. But we are following a role-based approach, so a remote operation workstation has been developed for the navigator, and one has been developed for the chief engineer. I also mentioned Masterly. They are a joint venture between Kongsberg and Wilhelmsen Shipping. We know about technology, Wilhelmsen knows about operations and logistics, so it's a really good match for us. And Masterly is designed to become operators for unmanned vessels. Together with Masterly, we are investigating levels of interaction and the user experience, because we are not attempting to put the current bridge layout on land. We are looking to scale up to a fleet understanding for the operator so that we have a one-to-many relationship. The stages we have defined range from monitoring of a fleet of vessels to supervision, intervention with a single vessel, and then direct control of one vessel at a time. And these levels of interaction will enable us to support the onboard crew, to know when to take control and manage mode changes in the system, to know when the vessel is capable of autonomous operation, and to enable a fleet management. The current vessel bridge environments are designed for onboard personnel. If we were to copy the current systems, while managing several vessels, the cognitive load would be huge. It would be unmanageable for an operator. Therefore, we are developing a new autonomy user interface, combining necessary data and functions from different systems so that the operator can handle the situation and have sufficient situational awareness. This is also an ongoing iterative process together with the University of Southeast Norway, who are actually educating mariners. So this is going directly into their new training program. And talking about the operator, we heard from Erik Tvedt earlier also that the human will be in the loop for quite some time. I agree, I totally agree. Just looking at the numbers of new employees coming into Masterly from Wilhelmsen, and these are the ones who go on board some of the vessels that are in operation now, en route to becoming unmanned. You can see the number and what type of background they have. So right now we are sailing with crewed vessels, but we do have plans to remove the safe manning level from 5 down to 3 within this year for one of the vessels, and shortly after for 2 other vessels. And I'm going to get into the projects now, the fun bit, so bear with me. Since we started the development on automatic navigation capabilities, a lot has happened, you know. The interest for remote and autonomous operations has escalated, and we are today collaborating with our customers on several commercial projects. And that has been a key factor for us. These are no longer demonstrators, these are commercial projects. And for all, the goals are safer, more efficient, and more sustainable maritime operations, where data and connectivity are key enablers. So I'm going to dive into these projects. I guess you've heard about the WIPNEWS, and this is quite personal for me because I've been following this project all back since it was drawing on a paper, till it got into the simulator, till it was designed and it was built on the shipyard and now on the water. And now it's actually sailing with cargo every week with a crew of 5 people. Within the end of this year, we will take off 2 people, so we'll have a safe manning level of 3, meaning more automation on board is being enabled. And the plan is still to have it fully unmanned operation by end of 2024. And that is before the IMO mass code is generated. So that'll be interesting, working with the flag state, really good collaboration. Specific, just looking at some of the details, it does have a detachable wheelhouse, which is designed by Kongsberg. The original thought was that taking the wheelhouse off was going to be the remote operation center. Good in theory, not so easy in practice. So it's designed to be lifted off, and the ECR is still on the vessel. And it's also duplicated into other projects coming after. It's fully electric. It has a capacity of 6.8 megawatt hours, delivered by Leklandsjeg, divided into 4 different segregated compartments. The mooring arms, which are installed along the hull side on the vessel, are delivered by MacGregor. The capacity is 120 TEU. Right now, it's designed to carry fertilizer from Yara, who are the ship owner, and each container weighs approximately 30 tons. So it's a dense and compact load. The onboard crew and the onshore crew are coming through Wilhelmsen into Masterly, so they are skilled and trained professionals. But we are also looking at gender diversity, inclusion of disabilities. How can that actually adapt into the maritime industry if you are working from a remote operation center? The timeline for WIPNEWS, as I said, we've committed the design, we've finished with the delivery from the yard, it's in operation, and the target is by end of this year to reduce the crew by automating more functionalities on board. And we are still optimistic when it comes to 2024, and I must say, That is because of the good collaboration between us, flag and class, and the ship owner. Without that close-knit operation and kind of open books talking about our issues together, we would not be on that journey together. The fun part about WIPNEWS was the massive attention it received when it was published. So others have actually taken the leap after and wanting to go down this route, like ASKO. ASKO is a grocery distributor in Norway, one of the largest ones, and they are actually looking to securing their logistical chain. It's not so much to do with the vessel itself, it has to do with not disrupting a logistical chain, which today needs to go through a subsea tunnel. And that subsea tunnel is closed quite often due to car breakdowns, other repairs and maintenance, and they needed an alternative. So that's why they just commissioned 2 automatic barges, fully electrical. Naming ceremony was just last week. Unfortunately, I did not have time to get pictures from that into this presentation, but they're also on the same journey to becoming unmanned by end of 2024. So you can imagine there is a race between Yara, who was always first, and now ASKO, who are coming and sailing up quite fast behind. A totally different operation is the Reach remotes. They are not wanting to transport cargo, they are looking at acquiring data, investigating subsea mapping, and also performing subsea maintenance. So it's a completely different operation, and that puts new requirements into our solution. So we need to think modular and scalable, which is quite interesting as an engineer, and it's really strengthening our systems and development plans. The last project I wanted to focus on is this one, the Sounder. It's a relatively small platform, highly modular, highly flexible to carry different types of payload. This specific delivery, which is the first one, was delivered to Peru just 1 month ago, and it's been specifically designed for hydroacoustic applications, detecting school of fish. Meaning that this one can go out unmanned for a long time, detecting school of fish, and the manned vessel can stay home waiting for the detection and be much more targeted in their fishing approach, saving fuel, saving time, and also increasing the safety for the crew. Alongside these commercial projects, we're also, of course, doing research. It's quite costly to develop new novel technology. So we have a program through Horizon 2020, and we have 2 demonstrators which will be live demonstrators in 2023. One you can see here is a fish feed carrier. It will be based out of Ålesund in Norway, and an inland waterway barge, which will also demonstrate autonomous capabilities in Belgium next summer. We have a front-end engineering design work together with DB Schenker, logistics company, for transporting furniture for Ekornes in Norway. So they saw what was going on with Yara and ASKO, and also saw this as a viable solution for removing cargo from the road onto the waterways in a more sustainable fashion. So you can see there are spin-off effects that are easily exportable to other parts of the world as well. So to conclude, autonomy is not new. It's a natural evolution made possible by technology and by the motivational incentives becoming strong enough. When we talk about autonomy in shipping, it's not just about the vessel. It's about the entire logistical chain. It's about system integration and connecting and interacting with a range of systems and suppliers. To progress within remote and autonomous vessels, we need research, government support, a change in regulations, and sound partnerships. A key success factor for us is not to only establish partnerships internationally, but also to be able to work across disciplines nationally, setting competition aside. As we say in Kongsberg, the journey has begun. Welcome on board. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Ms. Rice. I believe your presentation has answered the question that you had made at the beginning on why we're talking about autonomous ships today. Let's give her another big round of applause. And now we have come to our last but not least presentation, which will be held by Sang-Yong Kim, the Director of Marine Works. And the presentation will be on development of integrated platform and a digital bridge for autonomous ships. Let's welcome him with a big round of applause.
네, 안녕하십니까. 방금 소개
Good afternoon, everyone. As you introduced, my name is Kim Sam-young. I'm from Marine Works. My company is working on SMART project. I'm the research center president of research office of Marine Works. You heard about COS project in the beginning of this session. And data platform, software-based data platform is the key here. What we call this digital platform. And today I'm going to tell you some scenarios regarding the digital platform. You heard a lot about systems and data, and you also saw some visualized video. And I'm going to tell you some data systems, and then I will show you some applications. We have one common word in this session, which is AI, artificial intelligence. Traditional operation was based on rules, but now we are moving toward a smart area, and we are seeing autonomous ships that will be available in the near future. Now, many organizations are developing systems. Marine Works, my company, is a partner of HMM, the largest commercial shipyards. In 2021, Marine Works provided smart systems for ships constructed by 3 major Korean shipyards. We are providing data-driven based ship systems. So we are providing digital bridge systems for autonomous ships. Now let's go into details of a digital bridge project. Not only Marine Works, but CRISO, DSMA, Lloyd Register, and KMI are participating in this project. As you can see here, the applications, as you heard from Samsung Heavy Industries and Kongsberg, this is real autonomous system, and digital bridge provides and receives each data system. It works as a heart if you compare this to the body of humans. And based on digital bridge, onshore remote control data and onboard data can be transferred and received. As you can see here, digital bridge can be split into digital bridge for Mars and digital bridge that can handle data remotely delivered from onshore centers. As I repeated from the beginning, digital bridge is a data-driven system. As you can see on the slide, in this project, we are handling situation awareness system and autonomous system. You heard from the second speaker that there are many applications under the project of autonomous ships, and all those data are connected to Marine Works digital bridge. We have a lot of input and data that are transferred and received through digital bridge. Let me show you the configuration of the digital bridge. Let's take a look at from the left to the right. On the left, you can see the collector of data. Normally, VDR, AMS, and CCTV data, all required for autonomous operation, is collected here. In the middle, you can see where the data is processed and analyzed and transferred to onshore centers. And this data should be transferred and exchanged. And this is also done by the digital bridge. The data collected can be visualized like this. There is two different ways, 2D way and 3D way. On the right-hand side of the slide, we are using Actis to display the data. And we can also simulate the data. And this is part of the visualization program. And this visualization program uses data coming from digital bridge. This is kind of a step right before the digital twin. Let's talk about how we collect data. We need a device or system that collects data. This is normally called a DAQ. This is a data collector. The data coming from each sensor on ship is collected by this system. And each system should be verified and validated. And Lloyd Registers is doing the job verification and validation. As the previous speaker right before me said, many potential failures that can caused by information technology should be addressed. One good example is cyber risks. Let's say there is a cyber risk regarding platform. That means platform cannot deliver accurate data. And another situation is communication is disconnected when remotely transferred data is being received. So we have to make sure the data goes back to its original state. So alarm system is also needed, and Lloyd Register is verifying this process. So we are supposed to get type approval for production of the device. And this system has an impact on overall ships. So we need validation and verification of systems that have an impact on all overall ship. And we also have to prepare ourselves for gaps between systems. That is why we have to do inspections on a regular basis so that our devices and systems can be reliable on board. Now, let me tell you how we are going to demonstrate our system on board. As Samsung Heavy Industry said, the 24-meter-long vessel was already completed, and our digital platform system is on the vessel. We will test different systems on the ship. And Hyundai Mipo Shipyard is building 1,800 TEU vessel for this demonstration. And situational awareness system and autonomous system will be tested on this ship. This is currently under construction. And the connection between digital bridge and each sensor is being designed now. Alarm monitoring system comes from Kongsberg. We are having this interface between this device and Kongsberg, and this will be on the autonomous ship built in Hyundai Mipo Shipyard. Let me share with you some control scenarios. I've described what demonstrations process we have, what validation process we are going to use. Now it's time to imagine some scenarios. Control scenarios were developed by CRISO. Personally, the biggest technical hurdle in autonomous system is software system, including AI-enabled system. There are Actually, there has been rapid advancement of AI system and autonomous technologies. But on the other hand, there are some legal issues regarding navigation systems. One good example is autopilot-based water control. So control systems has taken an alternative methodology instead of taking regular methodology in order to send regular signals. We use a converter to replace digital signals with regular signals. We do this to force waters to be controlled. So to make sure we have effective autonomous system in place, we have to work with engine makers and navigation system makers. So we have effective software as well as effective hardware. As I said earlier, autopilot is the first thing we are going to use this control system. Normally, we use a track control system in ACTIS that makes autopilot possible. But in the autonomous operation, ruders are not controlled automatically, so we send direct control. Let's say we send a command through autopilot. So what do we have in return? To make sure we have a correct return, we add a calibration so that we can receive rudder return. Through situational awareness system, we operate autonomous vessels. So we have to think about how we are going to use digital bridge. Here, there are three concepts, three ideas. On top of the page, you can see this test vessel goes through departure and arrival. At departure, humans will get on board. So humans will control the vessel. So once the vessel enters into areas where autonomous system is possible, autonomous system will take the steering. And at the arrival water or arrival area, humans will intervene. This is the scenario. We do this because there are some legal issues that do not allow autonomous operation at certain waters. So here we are trying to test hybrid combination of human intervention and autonomous operation. Digital Bridge platform has 4 different functions. One is data management. It can collect data from each system. Second, Digital Bridge can monitor the performance of each system, as Kongsberg said earlier. Third, Digital Bridge transfers, sends and receives data, so it works as a communication hub. It ensures communication in real time. And fourth, it can understand and implement command that was sent by onshore control center. I already said this on previous slides. There are 3 modes. One is manual operation mode, and the other 2 is remote control mode and autonomous operation mode. We are talking about test vessel, so something can be different when we operate the system on real ships. That is why we put manual operation mode on top of the table. In autonomous operation mode is at the bottom. So we can go And you can go back and forth between these three modes on board. Going from manual mode to autonomous mode, the digital system doesn't decide that. A human on board will decide which mode should be in charge. Only when everything works as it is supposed to, a human being can decide and determine which mode should be the best. And we will also use a touch type display. And remote control mode can be replaced by autonomous operation mode. This will require software decision. A human being doesn't have to intervene. So remote control mode and autonomous operation mode can be replaced by software. These are basic modes, and we can also add some other modes between onshore, remote center, and shifts. There could be different scenarios for operation. First, we have to assume a normal situation. Basically, whether the power system is working without any abnormalities, and the crew do not have any problems, and there is no failure regarding connection with the research center. All these have to be checked first. Then the ship can be switched to autonomous operation mode. This is the scenario we have developed. In this scenario, what is also important is to prepare for errors, unexpected errors. Here you can see two different colored boxes. Blue boxes represents basic systems and basic data that make autonomous operation possible, and the blue box checks whether those systems are working normally, and red box shows these systems and data are normal, but transfer of data and exchange of data is accurate. Let's say you sent a control command and the return, you did not receive a return in 2 seconds or 33 seconds. That means there is a failure, and that can be checked by this red box. This is part of our digital bridge. In this presentation, I wanted to show you some applications and use cases of digital bridge, and I wanted to share our R&D status with you. We have some students from Korea Maritime and Ocean University. Marine Works had a workshop with KMOU 3 years ago, and back then, some people in the workshop raised some concerns. Autonomous vehicles do not necessarily mean that they will bring economic benefits. Once the technology is available, we can have some benefits. We can have RO, remote operator, so it can contribute to creating new jobs. As you can see from the use cases from Lloyd Registers and Kongsberg, autonomous systems cannot be fully achieved with large commercial ships, but at least autonomous operation can bring about benefits, economic benefits to small ships and people in the maritime sector.
Description on the Digital Bridge project. So let's give Mr. Kim another big round of applause. And ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the presentations, but we're going to have a discussion panel in a bit. And before that, also, we'll have a photo session with the students of the Korea Maritime and Ocean University. 네, 저희 토론으로 이어가기 전에 한국해양대학교 학생들의 기념 촬영이 있도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 토론을 위해서 또 세팅을 해야 하기 때문에 잠시 휴식 시간을 가지시고 4시 30
We will come back here by 4:35.
In right now, you still have a few more minutes before we start with the discussion. We'll start at 4:40 with the panel discussion. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin with the panel discussion of session 3. And we already have our panel of experts and moderator on the podium. So let's welcome them with a big round of applause. Thank you. And from here on, our moderator, Jin Kim, project head of CAS Project Office of the Korea Research Institute of Ships and Ocean Engineering, will lead the discussion. The microphone is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Before could I check that Eric Tibet is participating, second speaker of this session. Eric Tibet is participating online or he's not?
I believe that he unfortunately can not
He's
participate.
not. That's very unfortunate because he's the only person, related to regulations. So only technical people are here. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. This time, I would like to discuss about the future of, commercialization of mass. So, anyways, I remember that Eric, second speaker, said that ocean-going mass is not going to be happen for in our life. So we have to think about it. Okay, so first I will make each question to each speaker related to their presentation or their nations. And first, I'd like to ask Mr. Zhang, what's up? Autonomous engine. Actually, you can either speak Korean or English, it doesn't matter. So, autonomous engine and other mechanical systems are very important technologies to be realized to IMO autonomous level degree 3 or 4 for ocean going. So what is your opinion to technology for autonomous engine system right now and also including the future propulsion system? 네.
Of course, I am comfortable with speaking in Korean. Generally, when we think of autonomous surface vessel, people think that a ship can become an autonomous vessel only if it's able to avoid collision. But that's not everything about autonomous vessel. Intelligent navigation is the core technology, and intelligent engine is also very important. And although we didn't discuss today, cargo automation is also important when we talk about autonomous vessel. And before we reach IMO autonomous level 3 and 4, we don't think that we cannot reach the extreme situation where there's no crew at all on the ship. So crew members or seafarers are the fourth factor we have to consider when we think about the successful implementation of autonomous surface vessels. But still, the engine system is very difficult to implement. The existing engine system based on internal combustion engine should be automated. And how can we do this? Automating the existing internal combustion engine is very difficult to do. And there's a big gap between what researchers say is possible and what we feel in the reality. The outcome or result of the research is not actually meeting the expectation of the users. Users will be able to use an actual system and technology only if they have trust in the technology and product that they can use such technology or product with full confidence and reliability. So we have limitations in terms of engine system technology. Although IoT sensors and many system technologies have been evolved, but we will be able to create and process 400 sets of data per second, and we have to figure out the relevant feature and enable the feature. And if you consider the current level of technologies, we have limitations, and it is difficult for us to figure out all types of failure signals or defect signals in the engine room system with the current technology. So we need to ensure reliable failure diagnosis and pre-diagnosis system. Then we should consider the battery system or fuel cell engine system to enable eco-friendly propulsion system and autonomous surface vessels, especially in order to achieve IMO autonomous level 3 and 4.
Maybe the future propulsion system should be strongly linked to the electronic systems. Okay, and then actually I will ask to Luis. You have two questions. One is related to the UK, and the other is your company, Lloyd. So UK seems to have most focus on smaller unmanned vessels, as I know. So is there any industrial interest in the UK for larger mass type vessels? And also second question is, in a viewpoint of class, is Lloyd Register preparing procedures to give an approval for commercial operation of mass?
Kasamira, thank you very much. Okay, on the first question on the UK, well, actually the UK is implementing now, I think it's year 2 of the Maritime 2050 strategy for the country. And in general, the activity on very small unmanned craft, ships, vessels continues. And it's very much on the core of UK because it is to be used in UK waters. So that is very active. Not so much on big ships because those are not really so much part of the UK economy apart from ports. So the receiving ports. They have I think in their strategy there are 3 areas that are related to autonomous ships. One is ports, the other one is legal, and the other one is technology innovation. On ports, they are creating what they call smart port, which is basically a data-driven logistics that links with the land logistics, and that includes the receiving of autonomous ships in the future. So this is a bit of a connection with large ships because UK ports receive largest LNG ships, largest cruise ships in the world, and largest container ships, not in big numbers, but they do receive them daily. So ports. Then legal is also very intense activity of this strategy because in the UK they want to preserve London Maritime as a global maritime center for the world. So they are looking at working with IMO very intensively through the MCA, and they are writing in the UK their own regulations for autonomous ships on coastal trading, UK waters autonomy, like I think many other countries. And then the activity on technology innovation regarding autonomous ships, they are supporting companies creating technology to be placed on autonomous ships or to deliver assurance of autonomy. And the last one, which may not be related, but suddenly I forgot, maybe it is also related to autonomous ships. They are also on the strategy thinking on continuing the mapping, the digital mapping of the ocean bed, which they want to do this globally, because the UK has expertise in this field. So basically, they are using core expertise and then aligning with mass. But the big ships, the activity that we do here in Korea is not happening in the UK. So regarding the second question on what is the LAR framework, what is the LAR approval, So basically, the LR approval for autonomous ships is something that we started 2015, and it's been evolving, and we have evolved it in a way that now we have a framework to deliver approval of autonomy and artificial intelligence-enabled systems. And this framework has replaced the first one we issued in 2016, and this is the framework we use to deliver approvals of anything which is autonomous on shipping, autonomous systems on shipping. And we keep evolving the technology, and as I said in my presentation, we just talked to, we are working with the Alan Turing Institute to use their technology to test shipping, autonomous ships technology, and these are major contribution, and this program is non-stop. We are not there yet, so we continue working on it, as well as very actively working with the MCA in the application to into IMO for speeding up through IMO sessions, perhaps the birth of the mass code for all ships sooner than the Danish gentleman maybe expected, I think. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think in my presentation, so I mentioned about certification, how to give accreditation to the whole integrated autonomous system. So I don't know. So as I know, so any class is preparing the kind of integrated system. So in your experience, naval ship was IMO level. If we say on IMO level, how much intelligent? I mean, your experience in approval of autonomous naval ships.
Okay, for autonomous naval ships, we have created a assurance regime that fits the UK Navy, and and because it's created with them, and and everything regarding Navy is very secret and it's very confined. The assurance regime for UK Navy on what they are doing with autonomy and autonomous remote control autonomous unmanned ships, it is bespoke to for the Navy, and it's not public. However, obviously we take a lot of learning from it, and we can apply to commercial ships. But it's a little bit bespoke for the Navy. Okay. I'm afraid. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. And next, I'll ask to Mr. Kim Jae-woo. So we all know actually compared to the ocean going, the coastal area is much difficult in mass operations. So coastal operation seems to have more difficulties because of heavy traffic. So what is the main problem to operate a mass in a coastal area? And also very important thing is, what is your opinion of relation between VTS and your mass?
네.
Actually, it is difficult to do autonomous navigation around coastal area. We can see that from data. In many situations, the autonomous vessel must make the correct decision making and plan the accurate path. In this regard, it's very difficult. To do this, situational awareness must be done, but the vessels navigating around the coastal sea will have difficulties in terms of situational awareness technology. So we have to secure quality data. So for example, we can think about a policy where if ship owners or vessels provide the relevant data, then we can give them some reward for such data. So it's a matter of data, how much data we can collect and how fast we can commercialize the autonomous navigation technology for coastal navigation. So from data perspective, it's very difficult to collect sufficient amount of quality data from vessels running around, moving around the coastal area. And if the other vessel does not follow COLLEG, and if I follow COLLEG, then there could be some conflict. And in terms of past planning, we could face difficulties. And you asked questions about VTS. VTS is like traffic light. From VTS perspectives, if there is unmanned autonomous vessel, there could be some conflicts we have to consider. But for the time being, I think that autonomous vessels will be actually manned vessels. But if we don't have a person, any person at all in an autonomous surface vessel, we will have to do a lot of trials beforehand. In the future, the VTS can communicate with unmanned autonomous vessel regarding the route guidance through VDS system. And I think that VTS can exchange necessary information well with the unmanned autonomous vessels.
So VTS only give information by oral speaking. Yes, they don't give any, digital information. So maybe they will prepare something for the MEC, but in order to operate in current situations, I think, I don't know, we need some capability to understand oral speaking. Is there any, because you already have experience in the coastal area, so you, at that time you didn't get any direction from VTS?
네, 안타깝지만 아직 어떻게 트라이얼은
Actually, we didn't do the trial on communication between VTS and autonomous vessel moving around coastal area. Although we use English, there is noise from VTS verbal oral message, and it was difficult to understand the message. Of course, we will have to develop technology. Besides oral or voice-based message, we could communicate with VTS through other methods like lighting.
I was very impressed from the Anne Margaret's presentation from Kongsberg. So we all know the Kongsberg is one of the leading company in maritime digital sectors. So Kongsberg is by many seen as the leading manufacturer of equipment to autonomous ships. So do you have any idea how the rest of the industry is positioning themselves, including Korean companies?
Thank you so much, Mr. Kim. And I think after these days, we really need to watch our backs because we have some really strong competition coming out of Korea, I must say. I'm really glad to see that we're actually thinking along the same lines, which might strengthen the theory that we're onto something right, at least. But apart from that, I must say that the startup scene has exploded over the last year. There are so many startups on AI, on object detection, classification, navigational capabilities, engine capabilities, etc. And of course, they need to partner up with other larger industry players or shipyards, etc. So we see a massive amount of startups, and they are faster and more agile in specific areas. But they have a downside when it comes to the integration and integrated systems. But at the same time, they are partnering up, as you said, there is collaboration. I don't think anyone in this domain has the financial capacity to actually maintain all sorts of competences in-house that is required on such a broad range. So that is just a necessity. But I see there is a focus on modularity, on flexibility, on capability, also driven by the business to get things into the market. So when it comes to how the rest of the industry is positioning themselves, well, one thing I have been observing is that we also need to separate between the different market segments. There are quite different operators related to tug operations, than to road ferries, than to container ships, etc., and different drivers as well. So we see that to be able to achieve this, I think we need to take it slow and also to start collaborating a little bit more, trying to put aside the competition all the time. But really, the pace has picked up and it's moving. So regulators, watch out.
Thank you very much. She's a very modest answer. Okay. Finally, I'll give one question to Mr. Kim Sang-yong. A platform for math is getting more important since all digital data are linked to the applications and equipment through the platform. So what is your main focus on your development, and what would be necessary for international standardization?
예, 말씀드리겠습니다.
As I said in my presentation, digital bridge platform is like the heart at autonomous system. Once the heart stops, autonomous vehicle will lose its functions. It will be damaged. So we are developing software. So we take reliability and availability of software very seriously. And digital bridge platform is the thing that operates autonomous ships. So we have to make sure there are less cyber risks we are exposed to. Lastly, personally, I think the biggest hurdle of autonomous system is disconnection between systems, communication failure, for example, like communication from satellite. That could happen one day. When that happens, we have to make sure there is something in place so that we can make sure data is communicated, transferred, and received. And we have to have a backup system so that we don't lose any data. So in summary, availability of software and cyber security and communication, they are the three most important things. Regarding international standardization, we have ISO standards already in place for onboard ships, onboard systems. As you just mentioned earlier, data between ships is important. Samsung Heavy Industry also mentioned that. I'd like to answer to his kind of question. IALA and IMO are promoting e-navigation. I think e-navigation can be an answer. E-navigation has S-10X standards. You may have heard of XTEM, Sea Management Project, ship to onshore communication and communication between Navy and onshore centers. They can use S100 data centers so that they can have enough data exchange. And if we have data exchange on autonomous ships, we can pull ahead the time that we see international standardizations of autonomous system.
Now I make a focus to the commercialization and future of math. I will give a question to all. So there's very strong international competition, as I said, and MEC&WIP, to develop our math concept many places in the world. There are also significant problems that we need to cooperate to solve involving regulations, safety targets, and standards, and more. So what would be main problems to solve for ocean-going mass to be realistic? So, Mr. Chang, can you give your comments on that?
That's a very difficult question to answer because we need to consider the issue of flag state approval. Also, we have to comply with SOLAS and MARPOL Convention, and each flag state has their own regulation to comply with, so it's a very difficult thing to do. I know that discussions are going on in IMO, but the progress has been very slow. And IMO may create a temporary rule for navigation. The best way will be to conduct a pilot test between the two countries. They can select a specific sea route on which they deregulate the operation of the vessels and see how this will be implemented. Also, they need to think about PSC. When autonomous vessels enter the port of specific countries, PSC of each country could be different. They have a difference from each other. So how can we reach international consensus or agreement? And we can, under the concept of POC, we could run a pilot case between two countries.
Ivan said, so it's not going to be a easy problem. So anyways, I'd like to hear Luis' comments on that.
You said what is the major? Actually, there are a few, as Mr. Chan pointed out. If I have to mention only one word, to me is acceleration, or the lack of acceleration, because we are building the blocks, I think, in between many of us here, and I think this is a testament. I think it's about finding the way to accelerate action in IMO. And I think we have the tools. So basically, for example, talking to customers, users, they're telling me more and more in different places that they're calling for standards of data and of systems integration. This is a bit of a barrier for them, they feel. So this is something, if we work on that in industry level, we could accelerate these submissions into IMO. We could create evidence, body of evidence, and accelerate. The other challenge is what we call requirements engineering, which we find out by delivering our assurance framework. We are creating requirements on the go because nobody has done this before. Okay, if we could find a way to accelerate requirements engineering, meaning the technical descriptions of functions, capabilities, safety features of systems together, that will accelerate the creation of a body of evidence to submit to IMO and accelerate IMO decision. The other accelerator is actually the local administrations, a bit what Mr. Chang said, the local demonstrators, which I think that they're easy to exist because locally, and it's very interesting that Samsung today is talking to us about coastal autonomy. That is an accelerator in itself for mass ocean going. So I think it's about putting these accelerators together and then pushing the IMO, and I think then we will see this will be a reality before this gentleman, I forgot his name, Ivor, before the Danish gentleman, he will see it. He will see it. I think this should be our goal, that he can see this by himself. Accelerating.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I also agree that each country can handle their coastal area. So before the ocean going, the technical people should give some confidence for this technology. So I agree with that. I also would like to hear about the same topics from Samsung Heavy Industry, Mr. Kim.
네. 저희가 실험을 하면서
While conducting tests, one of the biggest challenges was that we can receive a temporary survey, but this autonomous vessel for coastal area is not yet commercialized, so there was no clear guideline. We had to do a lot of tests and pilot tests, but we were bounded by many regulatory constraints, and so we need to address this issue. When we conduct a simple function test or when we prepare the technologies test for commercialization, we should be able to proceed with the test smoothly and efficiently. And as explained before, in Kojedo Island, there is the coastal area where ships move between China mainland and Korea Island. And we're thinking about what would be the scope of autonomous navigation of vessels moving on the coastal area between China and our island. And I think that this issue can be solved through the cooperation between the government, institutions, and businesses. And the previous speaker proposed a good idea. We can designate a pilot test zone, and insurance will be a big issue when there's an accident. Who's going to make compensation for the damage, and who's going to take responsibility for any accident? The like-minded institutions and businesses could create a consortium, and we can designate a specific sea area as a pilot test area for autonomous navigation. Then that will facilitate the relevant technology development.
It's organized by Ministry of Ocean and Fisheries, so the many government people are hearing what you say. So I also expect we Korea also need some special law or some base for the commercialization of mass. So without any help from law or regulations, we cannot advance anymore. So I agree with that. Okay, and actually, Kongsberg, the Yara Buckland is going to be realistic before IMMS codes. So can you, Anne Margaret, can you give a comments on this topic?
Absolutely. So looking at the main problem for ocean-going mass, from our view, there are two aspects. One aspect is related to technology, connection, maintenance of conventional machinery and rotating systems. Very short answer. On the other aspect, it has to do with the regulatory side, and just like Mr. Jang just said, the international regulatory consensus, because you do want to be able to trade freely, not want to be restricted to a specific route, for example, and you might want to apply a vessel to other trading routes during its lifetime. And at the moment, we see the different flag states deviating from each other, and that is posing a challenge when you are developing systems, because you are not guaranteed that that can be exported to any other trading routes, any other national waters, today at least. So we need to do something about the fuel, the engines, to get that, the maintenance down. Because today it's just not financially sustainable to take those people off. They are doing a really important job during the sailing in deep sea. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. And Mr. Kim Sang-young, I don't know, so you are mainly focused on digital platform, but anyway, I think you can have a comment on this.
Of course. 네, 말씀드리겠습니다.
네. I'd like to tell you two things. First, From technical point of view, we didn't talk about this. I didn't talk about this with Dr. Zhang before this session. E-navigation. There is this idea of digital way at sea. There is a specific path and a route between a certain country, like a country A and country B, and insurance, and specific insurance, and SOLAS provisions that can be applied to this pathway and route for test purposes. Another technical thing we need to consider is what I said in my presentation. I think Kongsberg can agree with me. The approval system to approve autonomous system is needed. So the classification societies need to have approval framework, not just in Lloyd Register, but other classific societies. And we also need a cooperation from ship owners. And they are interested in what benefits shipyards and ship owners and shipping companies can have from autonomous ships, autonomous systems. They don't realize yet what benefits they are going to get from autonomous systems and autonomous devices. I used to be working for a shipping company as well. So we have to make sure they understand the benefits of autonomous systems so that they can make information-based choices. As long as if they have more information on benefits of autonomous ships, we can see more autonomous ships all year.
IMO-related issues. So I'm very sorry Eric is not participating in these discussions. So anyway, as a technical people, so IMO MEC-related technology have been developed not waiting for regulations. So MEC code is developing now in IMO. So 2 weeks ago, anyway, there was a MEC code meeting, but I didn't hear any their final report on that. So anyways, I'd like to hear your comments on that kind of IMO MEC code regulatory development. Is there any hope or any special things to consider? So please welcome to your comments too about that. So I would like to hear everything to the regulation-related issues from all speakers with you. So first, Mr. Zhang.
For IMO code development activities, I really hope that IMO must make a clear, accurate definition of mass. So the first thing I request is the clear definition of mass. And we need to reconsider whether the autonomous level 1, 2, 3, 4 are really proper. IMO 1.2 is manned navigation. IMO autonomous level 3 and 4 includes remote control and unmanned navigation. Between level 1 and 2 and level 3 and 4, there's a big gap in terms of technology. So it is difficult to make the simple categorization of the autonomous level into just level 1, 2, 3, 4. And could mass autonomous level 1, 2, 3, 4 can cover all the complex situation surrounding the seafarers. And from now on, with the development of technology, the number of seafarers will decrease on the ship. It means that the number of people who will work on the ship will decrease. Now, for one commercial vessel, about 25 seafarers are on board the ship. And depending on the autonomous grade defined by IMO, we will have to operate the vessel's navigation in different ways. So the clear definition is required regarding the definition of mass and the autonomous grade 1, 2, 3, 4.
Autonomous level, but Mr. Zhang mentioned about that. I very agree about the current 4-step is very ambiguous. I mean, some situation is not fitted to one of them. So I don't know. So, as I hear many countries make a comment on that kind of, we need some more detailed autonomy level for mass. So we would like to, we should hear what's going to happen in the next MS meetings. Okay. Next, Luis, do you have any comments on the regulatory IMO mass code development?
Yes, maybe a little bit of a different view, although fully agree with Mr. Chang, fully agree. But I believe we could, our approach is to move IMO into action based on evidence that we can collect from all these multiple projects we are creating together globally. We believe if we could create all the possible scenarios on we call it a synthetic testing environment, create all the scenarios, do the simulations, prove to IMO, show to IMO all the possibilities of the future, let's say before the future happens, use these technologies that are existing nowadays, and then ask IMO to consider, based on this type of evidence, which is simulated, but properly simulated, consider the speed up of the creation of a mass code. And we believe this is possible, but we also believe that the task of creating the synthetic environment for navigation is something we in Lloyd's Register aspire to undertake. It's not catching enough momentum yet. We hope we could maybe collaborate with industry partners and with the UK government finally and make it happen. If we could create the evidence, science-based evidence, I think we will have a big advantage. And I was very surprised yesterday to hear from the Vice Minister of Ocean and Fisheries that it is very important for them, for the Korea government, to be based on science-based evidence. Is music to my ears, to be honest. So I think we could help using this type of technology, because otherwise, I think IMO, the way they have to move, because they have to, because they are an international organization with many nations in conflict. We need to help them to move forward and convince nations. And I think the nations that are involved in high-level autonomy projects, Korea is one of them, Norway and others, could join in creating this evidence and pushing IMO forward. That could be an accelerator possibility.
That's very good comments. I don't know, the mass code regulatory work is developing. So how many actually technical people are involved on there? So I think we should make many technical information reports about that issues. Yeah.
I believe there's a lot of very good technical people involved, and some of our people in Lloyd's Register are also involved, but it's about the type of input they are creating. I think with technologies, we could change the type of input. Subject matter expertise plus data from scenarios which are synthetically created, and accelerate create better reports that will push IMO to take a faster action, I believe.
Okay, good. Okay, next I'd like to hear from industrial point of view from Mr. Kim Jae-woo.
제가 자유랑
While working on the commercialization of autonomous vessel, I often hear the question from people, what is the level of your MAS technology? So MAS enables remote navigation, and if cybersecurity is not ensured, what will be the grade of autonomous grade of this MAS? It is very difficult to make an accurate definition of the autonomous level notation of MAS. Although the autonomous level has been defined, there is a specific name like web machinery system or navigation system. I think that definition of MAS and definition of the grade of autonomous level should be made in a more detailed manner. We have to make distinction between different systems, and the autonomy level should be defined for each of the different systems so that people can understand the level of autonomy more clearly. This will be all for my opinion.
Industrial point of view, so maybe Samsung is gonna wait your technology development until some kind of mass code is fixed, or so how about I mean your research is it can be funded without any regulations?
Actually, Samsung Heavy Industry is participating in government-funded MAS research project. We are making internal report on the technology development status depending on the MAS code of IMO. And I mentioned that we need to define the level of autonomy more specifically. It means that we need to consider the behavior of human that is required to handle the system. For example, we have to understand the role of a human and the role of human, especially in handling the MAS system.
Now, I'd like to hear same topic from Angrit and Margaret.
Thank you. Yesterday at the dinner, I said it's an interesting time to be a naval architect. The people from the IMO at the same table, they said, well, actually, it's a really interesting time to be a policymaker because there are so many aspects that you need to cover. And I think IMO, they have an obligation to not only serve the tech front-running countries, but also to increase the conditions for all nations into the maritime industry. So it's about also closing the gap. So I understand there is a challenge. You need to bring someone up, you need to install someone, and then kind of have a consensus-based discussion going forwards. But I totally agree with Mr. Kim from SHI here regarding the levels of autonomy for the entire vessels. It needs to be much more detailed because just looking at the functionality on board, it can be at different autonomy levels at the same time. You can have a fully autonomous ballast system, something else, while the navigation is being run manually, for example. So I think we need to granulate that a lot more than what it is today. But I do appreciate that someone was bold enough to make a first attempt so that we actually have something to discuss upon. I think that is the type of action that I would like to see coming out of IMO and the flag states to dare to put something in writing, and then we can challenge that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Finally, Mr. Kim Sang-yong, could you give your comments on this?
말씀드리도록 하겠습니다.
I think I would agree with most of the previous speakers. Yes, there are 4 different levels. It sounds like a very simple level, so I want to make a proposal on leveling. As I said in my presentation, there are different modes, like autonomous mode and semi-autonomous modes, and we will also have a hybrid operational mode. So we can have only two different mass levels. Personally, this is a very personal opinion. As of now, we have level 4. And level 4 accompany two complicated requirements. When you think about the idea of a smart ships, the theory is different from what is really happening in reality. So we have to have standards and codes and regulations on systems that can be applied right away. Then we can go to the next step.
My prepared question is almost done, but before we finish this discussions, I'd like to ask about, because we already talking a lot about IMO autonomous level of degree. So because KR is also have their, as I know, their own autonomous level, and also I think Lloyd is have your own, and also maybe Kongsberg. So I'd like to finally ask about each company's definition compared to the current IMO autonomy levels. So Mr. Zhang, from your KR's different level compared to the IMO.
네, 그 한국 선급
In the case of Korea register, autonomy level goes from 1 to 5. We are register, so just like Lloyd, DV, DNVGL, and other projects, we referred to the projects conducted by other registered societies. And I found that it's not a matter of including new system to the ship or not. Actually, the important thing is the reliability of the systems on board. Depending on the level of reliability of the system, we allocate different level of autonomy. Some system is in charge of fire recognition, and I found that many registered societies, they provide the autonomy level to different systems depending on the system's reliability. For example, in the case of situation awareness, if the wave is high and if there is the deep sea fog, then we need to specify the autonomy level in more detail. So not only the autonomy level of the ship, but also the autonomy level of each technology used for a certain system should be defined.
Autonomy, I think so. Can you explain about yours?
Yes. So we at the beginning we started 1 to 6. Then a few months later we did 1 to 5, and right now we have 1 to 5. However, I must say that from the beginning we understood the autonomy levels apply system by system, not to the ship. So because we recognized, as I think Anne also said, and Mr. Kim, that yeah, I mean, in an autonomous ship, certain systems will act with certain level of autonomy, and others will function with a different level of autonomy. So we got it for that. It sounds a bit complex, but we understood this is very possible, although it is complex. So in a way, perhaps what we need to do is harmonize this understanding between us, at least between the IX class societies, which I think could be a good exercise, and then propose IMO to adopt our harmonized approach. Maybe that would be a good thing to do, because we cover those cases. But today, suddenly, I just thought that we need to talk to industry, because perhaps we also could, talking to some owners, we are designing which systems need which autonomy to comply with the operational case. We also do that, like reverse engineering. A particular ship owner some time ago asking for an autonomous barge with autonomous loading or flooring system. So suddenly you design the menu of autonomy for the ship, and the systems will be a certain degree of autonomy to together comply with the operation of a particular case, which is another way we are doing it, which maybe is doable. So I think as long as the framework allows for autonomous ship or autonomous system in isolation or a combination for a particular use case, maybe we could agree. I think IMO didn't go into that level of detail, and they oversimplify perhaps things, and if the industry feels this is not good, we should change it. We could change it, I believe.
Okay, great. Okay, finally, I'd like to hear about Kongsberg's autonomy level.
Okay, so right now we are following a scale from 1 to 5. It applies to the vessel as defined by the Norwegian Forum for Autonomous Ships. It basically focusing on the manning level being periodically or continuously on the bridge or on the vessel. But as we have just discussed, it's the best we have right now, but we do not feel it is sufficient. I must say I am really motivated by the words from Louis here on the side. So yes, please. And can you also get the other classification societies to listen to you? That will make it so much easier for us as an industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, today we mostly talk about the future of mass. I mean, what we can accelerate the commercialization of ocean-going mass, but maybe we are all technical people, so we are all agree like regulations, like IMO action is not quite, following our technology speed. So we should. I think even the country is different, even though we are competing, so we should make some confidence for the technical field of view. So maybe if we made that kind of advance, I think after that IMO the regulation is followed. Okay. Thank you very much for kind attention, everybody, and also I'm very appreciate for all today's speakers. Thank you very much. I will hand over the mic.
Thank you very much for that in-depth discussion, and also thank you to each and every one of your sincere answers. Let's give them another big round of applause. Thank you very much. You may return to your seats. And with that, we have come to the end of our third session that focused on the interesting topic of maritime autonomous surface ships. Thank you very much for your attendance today throughout the day. And also, I hope to see you tomorrow again for the fourth session as well on the third day of the 2022 Korea Maritime Week. Now, for our distinguished guests that have been informed on today's VIP dinner, please meet us again at Tamoim Restaurant on the first basement floor. And ladies and gentlemen, as I said, tomorrow is the last day of the 2022 Korea Maritime Week. We thank you for your participation and hope to see you tomorrow again. And we're going to start at 9:30 a.m. right at this venue. So have a good evening and see you. Thank you very much. 여러분 감사합니다.